Hello, Carm3D on the tube with you, primarily in the service of my rigging students. This is an object that I had modeled when I was acclimating myself to cinema, and I will be placing this object in Blackboard for you to use for rigging purposes. So let's get started. I've been exploring the tools further. I had a cursory knowledge of rigging in cinema previous to today, but I've been digging further and knowing what I knew before, I could create a rig, but I was really not all that pleased with the methods used. But now, with the stuff I've just learned now that I'm about to share with you, I feel more confident that I can more closely mimic what I was doing in Lightwave. And the reason why this makes me more comfortable is because I know that when it comes time to animate, it makes things easier. So let's dig into that. Let me just show you around first here. That's what it looks like standard. This is that typical contextual options panel for whatever you have selected, and then this is the layers browser that we're going to be using a lot. Actually, this doesn't start out like that. What I did first was, after I loaded the guy, I would click on here and I would say add to new layer, and then again I would go in there and say layer manager, and that would make the manager show up here. Ignore this, this is from my screen recorder program. So anyway, the first thing I would do to my guy, well, I guess the first thing I would do is rename him to Guy, and then the next thing I would do is lock him. See a little padlock there? Now I cannot select him, so that way you can mess around with your joints and your bones and your nulls, and you won't have to worry about accidentally selecting the geometry, because we're really not concerned with geometry at this point. Okay, so now you might think the next step would be to add a joint chain, but you would be wrong. Doing what I did before, yeah, that would be the next step, but this is what I want to do. I want to go in the menu here and say create a null, and that creates a null down here at the 0, 0, 0 location of the world. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose lines mode there so I can see through everything. Now, this is going to be a null that reorients the orientations so that we can proceed from this point without having all sorts of crazy wild numbers in the rotation values as we create a new chain. And so that will make things much easier for animation purposes. So let us first look at a skeleton. This is a skeleton. And basically I'm showing you this so you can see where we're going to start our legs. Because it might not be what you think. You might think, oh, I just put it in the middle. But not really. Look at the side view here. It's pretty well close to the front. And on the side, even though it's not a perfectly side view, I know for a fact that the rotation area, which is right dead center in there, it's not here, it's in this ball and socket joint, so the rotation will be right where my pointer is. It's off to the side a little bit. It's a little closer to the outside edge than it is to the groinular area. So I will be using this null as a reorienter for our leg chain that will branch off of it. So the first thing I will do is place it where I want it to be. So it's going to be off to the side a little bit, and it's going to be somewhere around there. So I'm no doctor, but it looks pretty close to me. Close enough for animation work, you know, and government work. Okay. Now, The next step is to reorient this, because as you may know by now, if you've been watching my videos, everything branches off in the Z direction when we're talking bones and joints and whatnot. And so to get a clean hierarchy coming off of this, I want to reorient the bone going down the leg. So I'm going to choose R for rotate and start rotating. Now let me move my panel here so you can see both these guys at the same time. Okay, so as you can see, as I'm dragging the red ring, the pitch value changes. And let me show you, let me put this back where it was, close enough, and go over here and see on the, this is the normal thing you would see, but I'm going to click on Object Axis and I'm going to choose Gimbaling Rotation. Now what happens when I rotate? See that? The blue ring, which is the bank rotation, eventually lines up with the pitch rotation, which is not a good thing, but that's just the way of the world. Unless, of course, cinema is completely alien to what I'm used to. But I'm going to assume that it's not. But this is a good thing, because we know, I know, that by doing this, I am reorienting the Z going down this way, and if we put a child to this, then everything will be locked up to 0, 0, 0 if it was going perfectly down the leg, or at least close to it, closer than it was. Now, I cannot rotate this so that this red axis would kind of line up with the angle of this thigh, and I would like to. So I'm going to turn this off because I was just showing you some stuff, and now you can see that the rotation rings are kind of like reoriented to the world axis. But watch what happens when I change the rotation of this green ring here. Look at the numbers. They are going crazy nuts. And that's because what's happening is when I'm rotating this, it is continuously rotating the heading, the bank, and the pitch, whatever it can do to keep it lined up for this, because if we put this thing on, we can see everything is all gimbal locky. And this thing I did off screen was the gimbal rotation thing. But that's okay, because this is not a null or an element, it could be anything, but in this case it's a null, that we are going to be animating. This is just for reorienting the flow of the hierarchy that's going to follow out of it. So, I am taking caution to the wind, and I am just reorienting this thing to the flow of this limb coming out here. And it doesn't have to be completely dead on, but it's pretty good right there. So I'm going to hit, let's see, which one am I going to hit? Record position, scale, and rotation of active objects. That sounds good. I'm going to do that. So it has recorded that. What's this one do? Automatic keyframe? That's alright, I don't need that. Keyframe selection. I guess so. I'll hit that too. Alright, well, I'm still getting used to this stuff. But anyway, so now I've got this null here that's setting the direction for our leg. So I'll say, I don't know, what am I going to call this? Guy leg starter R. The underscore R is for the right side. And I believe this is the right leg. Oops. Control Z. Yeah. Yeah, it's the right leg. Okay, so let's see. I'm not going to use the standard joint tool, I don't think, because when you do that, you just click and click and click to draw joints, you don't have really much control over the orientation. I like to have control when I'm doing this. I like to see what's happening mathematically. So let me see here. No, forget that. I'm just going to add another null. Let's try this. I'm going off script and I'm being adventurous here. Create a new null. Okay, so now we got two nulls there. And here's the new null right here. I'll call this guy thigh R. And I'm going to make this a child of this guy. Now, when we do that, it stays where it was, but it is changed all these values to reflect what is necessary to make this a child of that, even though they're at different locations and orientations. But we don't need that. You could do two things from here. You could select all these guys and zero them out, or you can go in here in the character tab and say reset PSR. That's reset position, scale, and rotation. And so you can see when I did that, it jumped to the exact position and orientation and scale, even though we're not concerned about scale, to that. I mean, we're concerned about it, but we're not changing any scales, so it's all staying the same. And you can see everything zeroed out. It's right where the other guy was, but look at this. Look at our rings. Let's get back to our gimbaling rotation. So we have enabled the gimbaling rotation, but look at the rings. They are perfectly set where we would want them to be. Everything looks beautiful, and you can animate from here. I can rotate this. Let me move this down here. I can rotate this green ring, and look, the only thing that's changing is the green value, the heading. That is beautiful. That is a sight to behold. Okay, so now from here, let us add a joint. Let's see, if I just use the joint tool, it's going to do the whole thing where it adds a null and then a joint, and you add them by clicking. I'm curious if I just add a joint this way. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted. It added a joint down here, but I could take this joint, guy, thigh R, and I named them thigh R's, but I'm going to rename this. I'll just say leg. Yeah, because this guy is going to go down here, be a child of this guy, and then we'll do the same reset PSR. As far as I know, there is no keystroke command for that, so you just have to go in that menu every time. What you could do is go to your character thing and then see this little bar here. Click that, and then now we can move this and dock it wherever you want. So we could just stick it in here. So that might make things a little easier. Okay, so I got leg starter was our thing with the crazy rotations. Leg and thigh. That would be the actual element that affects the geometry. Actually, if you want to get technical, I believe its child will be affecting geometry, but we already discussed that. Okay, so we'll leave that as it is, because we know everything's 0, 0, 0 there. I'm going to say add a joint. And let's see here. When I did that, it stayed where it was because of the whole parent in place thing. In Lightwave they call it parent in place. They just, I guess it's just standard MO for cinema. But I'm gonna try this. I'm going to try the reset. Oh, where did that go? Reset PSR. Okay, maybe it's not in there. There we go. And move. And then drag. Notice that as I drag, only one value here is changing. And I want this to be at the knee, of course. So that looks about right. It's way too close to the skin there. I want this to be pretty much in the center of the knee. That's okay. I will select this guy, I believe. Yes. Rotate him. And I'm going to show you both of these if possible, so that we can see how everything is. Don't rotate around the hand. Okay, so if I rotate this green, red ring here, yeah, the only thing that's changing is the pitch, which is good. And notice I am rotating this, the leg starter null, not this bone here. I want this to, because I want this to stay at 0. So I'm going to rotate that until the end of that joint is right in the middle of his knee, which is right there, just about. Yeah. Okay. I will use record PSR. You can see the text pop up there. Also F9. Okay. Next step, add another joint. I want to rename this first. Guy, I don't know, knee R. I'll capitalize the K because that's what I've been doing with everything else. And then add the joint. Move that joint down there. Same thing, I'm going to flush out the PSR, reset PSR, and then move this down to Z. See, drawing out the chain is very user-friendly, but I like this because I know exactly what's happening when it comes down to the very numbers that you're going to be animating. And if you're creating some crazy gimbal situations, you'll pay for it later when it comes time to animate, I promise you. So this is good. Later on, after you've done this a few times, if you want to be adventurous and use the joint tool, more power to you. I'm just saying that this way I know what's happening. I know every weld of my ship, to be coining a phrase. So I'm going to pull that down there, and I'm going to select the knee and rotate it. That's beautiful. Again, my numbers are very clean. The only thing that's changed is the Z when I brought it down to the knee, and of course the rotation to change the pitch of this. Now, as I suspected, you might not always get perfectly lined up nulls. We know that the heading is 0 completely down the leg, but you can see it doesn't quite go in the center of the leg, and that's okay. You can tweak this a little bit to line it up. We'll just leave that alone. We'll lock that angle later on when it comes time to finalize the rig. So you can see we got a little bit of a rotation there. And I will once again click that, lock that in place. Now we have a complete chain as far as IK is concerned, although we haven't turned on the IK yet. I want to pause the video here, or maybe even stop the video here, and I'm going to continue on, and then once I am confident in the direction to go from here, I'll make a new video. See you next time.